Hey, Jim. I'm so glad you could join us today. Before I dive into the interrogation, we should get to know you. My first question, who is Jim Nesbitt? Tell us 6 interesting things about yourself that we wouldn't learn from your author page.
That's the question I ask the guy looking back at me in the mirror every morning. Just who the hell is Jim Nesbitt? He never answers. Let's see. I'm a retired saloon sport, or as an old friend once said, a veteran boulevardier. I've got 5 tattoos, thinking about a 6. I've flown the Goodyear blimp over New Orleans and an AT-6 Texan over Oahu on the same route the Japanese took to bomb Pearl Harbor. I love old warbirds, particularly from World War II, my father's war, and I used to fly quite a bit. I've had 8 knee surgeries, including 2 to repair my right knee from having to dump a Harley to avoid kissing the rear end of a Mercedes that did a panic stop in front of me. The bike came out okay, thanks for asking. I've got 2 ex-wives and an unofficial third ex. I love horses, old guns, old trucks, and old tractors. I drive a 72 Cutlass Supreme ragtop. Cigars and Tennessee sipping whiskey are also high on my list. So are hard-boiled novels and movies, the classics. Chandler, Hammett, Bogey, and Bacall.
I hear that you are actually a reporter. What qualities of being a reporter help you in the writing industry?
Guilty as charged and for more years than I care to remember. Writing is writing, and I was fortunate to start my journalism career at a time when long-format stories were in vogue. Pieces that featured literary elements to show a story rather than just tell it. That honed an already sharp eye and keen ear for the people who give voice to a story and the details that bring it to life.
How does the life of a reporter constantly chasing a story compare the life of being a writer? I'd imagine that deadlines are much the same hectic craziness.
Journalism is an addicting business, and I was an action junkie for a lot of years. I chased presidential candidates, hurricanes, earthquakes, neo-Nazis, Klansmen, Christian patriots, and the occasional killer on the run. You get a rush from deadline pressure and are prone to create that feeling by procrastinating until the very last minute.
How much of your stories and the experiences gained from them did you integrate into your books?
Well, the mythical they say you write what you know, but that's just the starting point. I learned the hard way that facts are my friends, and the more I know, the firmer the foundation for my writing. You wind up writing much stronger and authoritative pieces, stories with the ring of truth, rather than just winging it and using words to dance around what you don't know. You start with what you know and always try to learn more.
Who is your favorite author? What books do you recommend to us?
Well, I can't pick just one. Growing up, it was Ernest Hemingway and Dr. Hunter S. Thompson. These days, I'll read anything by James Lee Burke, Lawrence Block, Elmore Leonard, and Jim Thompson. I love Philip Kerr's Bernie Gunther books for the main character's unsinkable and cynical survival instincts and bitter humor. I've always thought the late James Crumley an underappreciated talent. His Dancing Bear and The Last Good Kiss are must-reads. And you can't go wrong rereading the old masters, Raymond Chandler, Dashiell Hammett, and James M. Cain. Lately, I've read Don Winslow's Mexican cartel novels, The Power of the Dog and The Cartel. Those are great books. Just finished reading Jeanette Cooperman's The Circumstance of Blood, written in the tradition of the Great Brit Mysteries. It's a semi-cozy, not my normal cup of tea, but a terrific read by a great writer. I also like Lie Catchers, a novel by former LAPD detective Paul Bishop. It's a psychological whodunit that reminds me of John le Carre's Smiley's People, with a distinctly American edge.
Which genre do you prefer? Crime, mystery, thriller, or noir? Are any of those your favorite genre?
Hardball, baby, with a Dixie twist. I tell people that my novels are chicken fried noir.
What can you tell us about The Last Second Chance?
Well, it's more of a hardball thriller than a whodunit. It's an innocence on the run story, although my main characters, Ed Earl Birch and Carla Sue Cantrell, are hardly innocents. Birch is a cashiered homicide detective, booted off the force because of his own violent mistakes. He's got his life narrowed down to chasing financial fugitives from the carnage of the oil bust and savings and loan crash that scarred Dallas in the mid-1980s. He's an ex-jock gone to sea, a private investigator with bad knees and a tortured soul. He's got to live with the memories of 3 ex-wives, the shame of his fall from grace, and guilt over a dead partner and the killer Birch thinks got snuffed before he could track him down. And here are the rules. Play it smart and cautious. Keep the line straight. Don't take a risk. Don't give a damn. It's the creed of the terminal burnout, and he's living it a day at a time, drink by drink. All that gets shattered when Cantrell walks into his life. She's a short blonde with ice blue eyes and a taste for muscle cars, crystal meth, and the high-wire double-cross. She points a big Colt 1911 at his head and tells him his partner's killer is still alive. That would be a narco named Teddy Roy Bonifacio. She forces him into a deadly game where Birch is framed for murder and chased by cops and the narco's hitman. They're on the run through the scrubby Texas hill country and the high desert of El Paso in northern Mexico. And they're gunning for the same man both want dead. T. Roy, the narco known as El Rojo Loco.
How do you hope your readers connect to your main character, Ed Earl Birch?
I think Ed Earl is a guy with whom most people can identify. He's a bit of an everyman who's been smacked around by life. As a result, he's placed himself in a box of his own making, one he thinks will keep him from getting smacked again. He's dead wrong, of course. He's also his own worst enemy. He's a cynical smartass who can't help taking a whack at folks he doesn't like, even when he knows they'll whack him back. But when it all hits the fan, he's surprised to find the grit and determination that made him a good cop are still there, giving him the strength to answer the call. He starts out wanting revenge for himself and for his dead partner. But what he finds along the way is a battered form of redemption.
What was your dream career as a child? An astronaut? The president? Possibly even Prince Charming?
I always wanted to be one of Claire Chennault's boys, a flying tiger chasing Zeeks over China and Burma in a sharp-snouted P-40. Either that or a pedal steel guitar player with a big pompadour, backing up Ray Price or Tammy Wynette.
After writing such a fast-paced mystery book, what was your favorite way to relax after a day of hard-hitting writing?
Firing up a damn good cigar and pouring 4 fingers of George Dickel Tennessee whiskey on the rocks.
Do you have any weird writing rituals or habits?
Well, I don't write in the nude while sitting on a cactus. And it's not true that I like to write while wearing a Tennessee orange feather boa with Rocky Top blasting from the stereo. About the weirdest ritual I have is reading what I've written aloud with a hand cupped over my ear like one of those old-timey radio announcers. I want to see if it sounds as good as it reads. Does it talk good? You know, the Irish say writers are failed talkers, so I try to make my words as talkable as possible.
From your perspective, describe your book and why we should read it.
Wait a second. Let me fetch my perspective from the garage where it's getting an oil change. Now, I've already given you a bit of a synopsis, so I'll answer the why part of your question. You'll like this book for its snappy, rednecky dialogue and the main characters, who are strangers with a lot in common. I've already told you about Ed Earl, but Carla Sue more than holds her own. She's a killer with a code and someone who thrives on high risk and revenge. You'll like getting to know her and Ed Earl. Mix in a bit of Santeria and Aztec heart sacrifice, and you've got a hell of a read.
I've heard your character described as an anti-hero and a bit of a cynic with a wry sense of humor. Was there someone you know that you based this character off of, or did he develop with the story?
Well, yeah, me. And most of my hard-drinking, cynical, smart-ass journalism buddies. We're a rude lot, and we're nobody's idea of anybody's hero.
What's next for Jim Nesbitt?
A nap, and then a lot of long hours at the writing desk, polishing the second Ed Earl Birch novel, and then writing the third.
Thanks so much, Jim, for sharing with us.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.